So everyone, I present to you the inquisitive mind of Louis Tee.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's clap it up.
Y'all can make some noise now. You can applaud. Get that on the film.
So,
Post-production.
thank you, my mayor, Mr. Scott, Devon Scott. And I thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank, I'm going to thank all my guests. I'm going to start down on the end and let everybody introduce themselves while Haji's playing with that.
It's a lot happening here, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can best engage and be comfortable.
Well, for those who don't know, I am the inquisitive mind of Louis Tee. I'll be the panel host kind of the evening.
He's so curious. Look at how curious he is right now.
So, and then I'm going to start into my left. You're to my left.
I thought you said all the way up.
Well, because he was fidgeting around playing with the microphone, so I was just
I'm good now.
I'm Jake.
Pause.
I own Memory Lane Comics in Wilmington, North Carolina, and like comic books and this. So, yeah.
Where's Memory Lane Comics located at?
It's downtown, just a few blocks from here, or like I don't know, a half mile, something like that. A distance.
Okay.
A distance.
And then to your left.
And my name's Mackenzie. I'm on Instagram as timelady_cosplay. I'm a cosplayer, comic reader, movie lover, all the above. So, yeah.
All right. And then on the end.
Hi, my name is Haji P. There's a lot of lights and cameras looking at me. I make art stuff. Check me out, Hpfangs.com or Instagram at Hpfangs. I'm also a grown man, but sometimes my voice cracks like I'm not. Sorry.
All right, and so if y'all haven't figured it out, if y'all are watching this later in the future on YouTube or whatnot, this is our first live. We got people behind the cameras and stuff, so this is a new thing for us. The first part one, we're doing the topic. I got these pretty much. Are y'all offended by the term nerds?
You can say nerds.
Yeah, I got these nerds and geeks and stuff. We're going to first be talking about representation kind of in comics. We're going to be talking about gender, race bending in the actual comics, and that's going to kind of lead to part two. So there'll be a link or something for part two, and we're going to be talking about it in TV and movies. So I got Jake, who's I'm going to probably be leaning a lot on Jake since he has not only his point of view, he's going to talk to other people, and then just everybody. Because it does, to me, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, and especially, before this, let's just kind of go in your general stance, everybody, how do y'all feel about the topic? Like gender bending, race bending, tokenization, however you want to, whatever term you want to use it, in the comic books, in the actual books themselves.
I feel like you threw a few terms out there. One, like tokenization, would be a negative connotation towards that, which I don't appreciate. But I think representation and changing, I guess, sure, race bending or whatever, gender bending is completely awesome. I think it's great that things are changing. It's like the idea of, I don't know, the world has evolved in that way, so these characters can't just remain the same for 100 years. Things have to change. So as long as it makes sense for a story that you can pull it off, I'm all for it.
Okay.
And I like the idea of gender race bending for the sake of people having somebody to look to and relate to in any sort of way, anything with the background story, how they look. Wonder Woman was mine growing up, so I'm quite attached to her, and I'm completely okay with, Gal playing her. She's fantastic. She's wonderful. So you guys can hate on the movie all you like, but it's a wonderful movie. But if it's like a character that is reliant upon the background of the character, I feel like it shouldn't be touched. It's very much so an in-case scenario with the characters, but I'm all for it. It gives everybody to look to for themselves. And you have to have everybody that's on this planet in the comics at some point. So whether they exist, like different parallel universes, different kinds of characters, like all the spider people, they can all exist at the same time from different universes. or you can just change it completely like Nick Fury. So I think it's cool. Yeah.
And Mr. Fangs?
So I feel like this answer is going to put me at tumultuous odds with people who I consider good friends and pleasant company. But I am adamantly not down with race and gender bending.
Even in the comics.
Yeah,
I mean-
we haven't spoken yet.
Yet. We haven't
I
we
got
haven't
you.
gotten to the conversation yet and had the back and forth, but where I sit now, I don't see the necessity. I don't see what it offers. And I feel like most of the excuses for it, I feel like it's tokenization. So I know like you commented on like it's a negative and derogatory term, and it is.
He's talking to you, Jake.
I'll hear you. I'm gonna white guy mansplain you real soon. Exactly
But
how I feel about this.
I don't buy into it. I don't buy into it.
So I would assume, which I could be wrong, man, that Haji, knowing you, that you'll be a fan of Miles Morales. Are you not a fan of Miles Morales?
So that's not necessarily tokenization or race bending. That is creating an entirely new character.
It's not entirely new.
Well, okay, so it's not an entirely new character, but he has a backstory. He's not just somebody putting on the suit and saying, "Hey, here's your black Spider-Man." He's evolved. I can look to the first Miles Morales and I can continue to follow Miles Morales. I can't see a black Peter Parker who's a black Peter Parker in this movie, and then all of a sudden he's washed away into obscurity because somebody needed to sell me a ticket to make me feel like I'm supposed to be comfortable in your theater seat.
So, okay, no, go ahead.
Oh,
Jake.
just for argument's sake, if a bunch of people auditioned to play Peter Parker, and the best actor, the guy who pulled it off above anybody else, was a black guy, does that not play?
So if I'm a casting director and my job is to be able to embody a presence, right? Looks matter. Physicality matters. And if the best actor for the job does not look like the person who I'm portraying, no, he's not the best actor for the job. Now, does he have the acting chops and the prowess? Absolutely, but you can't be the best actor for the job because I can't lose myself into your appearance as this person.
And let's not get too wrapped up into like movies and TV yet. Like I want to start from the source and the source material. So I want to stick to, and I don't know as many examples, or they don't come to mind, as because I feel like y'all are more in depth in the actual comics, way more than I am. That was why I have y'all here. But I want to talk about more like the Miles Moraleses, the Wally West, and things of that nature in the actual comic. Like, so if I'm understanding you correctly, so in comic books, Haji, who is someone that you do have? Is there someone that switched in a comic book, not movie, just in the actual comic that you have a problem with? Because I would say mostly in the comics, they do set up a backstory. They don't just, and I don't know, Jake might know more than me, or I'm sure he does know more than me. They don't just change someone's color. Like Nick Fury, he started in the Ultimate Universe. Did you have a problem with that?
Mm-hmm. So when Nick Fury first came out as Samuel L. Jackson, as much as I love Samuel L. Jackson, I wasn't down. But when he went from black actor to black narrative, I support that. But that's not always the case. And Nick Fury was also one of those characters that when you put him out, you're allowed to have that kind of convenience because, you put out Iron Man, who knew really who Nick Fury was that wouldn't be in a table discussion with us, right?
Yeah. So I'm confused. So Nick Fury as a whole in the comics you were fine with, or you said you did have a problem with it?
Initially, I didn't, but it turned from tokenization into they developed his character. So when he first dropped when he first became a black man, I was like, nah, it's not Nick Fury. It's not Nick Fury. But Marvel did the right thing in continuing on with that Nick Fury. And now I'm a little more satiated, but
I feel like by that idea, they could just carry on with anybody.
Yeah.
And tack on
It'll
some more
always
stuff.
start as a tokenization idea before they're able to actually flesh it out.
But how often does that happen?
He was definitely token in the Ultimates, which is where that
Yeah.
version of that comes from. It's very cinematic. Avengers before the movie, like way before a movie was even a thought. And that's where they based that idea on. And now the Nick Fury is basically that guy is a black guy in the comic books, and he's Nick Fury Jr., and they've written a way for him to exist as the white guy's son, and in a very stupid comic booky way, but it is what it is now, and you just roll with it. That's kind of, but comic books have always done that, not just with, I don't know, race or anything.
So Jake, you talk to us nerds on a regular basis. Who's someone that name some of the characters that seem to trigger people when they do change? Like I mean, I have my theories, but like, who are some of the people that some of the characters that seem to be trigger characters?
Thor was for a little while, but that's a ridiculous idea because it literally says whoever holds this hammer on the hammer.
And is it Jane Foster Thor you're talking about?
Yeah.
But people were upset about that for a little while. It happens and it comes and it goes, and it's generally more of a movie thing than a comic book thing because it's usually, if it's a comic book, they've
fleshed it out,
worked their way towards something to that nature. But people are already starting to freak out about Batman being black probably next year.
In the comics?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So there's these rumors that it's DC's new publishing initiative.
Oh, I think
G5,
I have heard some of that, yeah.
And they're essentially doing exactly, and I have a problem with this. I do. I'm with you on this one. They're essentially about to completely change everybody. It looks like this one's gonna be a girl now. This one's gonna be a black guy, and everyone's gonna get rotated around a whole bunch.
So why do you have a problem with it, Jake?
Because if you just do it all in one fell swoop, even with some established characters, it doesn't feel authentic.
So you're talking about like Rebirth or New 52? That didn't feel authentic to you?
No, I didn't care for much of that to begin. I mean, it's honestly, I would have kept just rolling with everything, and they're like a floundering company, anyways. But they're like about to make Lucius Fox. Morgan Freeman played this character in the Dark Knight trilogy. His son is going to be Batman, but at the same time, someone else is going to be Wonder Woman. Someone else is going to be Green Lantern, and to just do it with a flick of a switch doesn't make sense. To do it over time and to make a story out of it is awesome. So I love representation as long as but you can't just do it.
As long as it's in your little box.
Sure.
Okay. So pretty much, and so how I know you Mackenzie cosplay it as Red Hood.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this? I guess because this is the first. I think I've heard rumblings of it. That this G5. How do we all feel about Black Batman?
I'm not against it as long as it's fleshed out, like he said. It's hard to because it can feel like, again, it's tokenization. But being in the cosplay community, a lot of characters you feel like you cannot cosplay them either because they're I would love the cosplay Storm, but that's not right. You could if you didn't change how you look, your skin color, but there's still shame in it.
She's trying to politely say she can't do blackface.
Well, yeah.
For those who don't,
But being in the cosplay community, when characters are changed in a way, and who's a good example? Like Green Lanterns. There's so many different Green Lanterns. They all look so different. There's something for anybody almost. So it gives more representation, like you said.
Yeah.
And, to embody yourself as a character you like to in cosplay, it's more surreal than reading a comic, and that's why I got into it. When you see yourself in a character, when you love a character so much, you want to show your admiration and your appreciation for them. And it's hard to do when there's not, when there's a concrete character and you don't look anything like them, you can still do it, but it just doesn't feel right. So being able to spread it, flesh out these characters, even give them, I prefer, like you said, like Miles Morales, they didn't just make him black and give him the Spider-Man suit. They created a whole new story.
And
they
he's
should
black
always
and
do
Latino.
that.
Let's not forget the Latino
Yeah.
side.
No, absolutely not. But the whole black Batman thing, if they made Red Hood female, that would be really cool. Just make some of the Robins, more of them female.
Carrie Kelly.
Oh, I love Carrie Kelly. But most of them, when you think of Robin, your connotative value is going to be Damian Wayne, Tim Drake, Richard Grayson, Jason Todd. Those are the well-known ones, usually. Stephanie Brown, But
First of all,
So,
first of all, we're not about to do this.
So Haji, we kind of got an idea, but would you like to vocalize your feelings on a black? Well, I guess it's not a black Bruce Wayne, but a black Batman.
Are we talking about Lucius Fox's son becoming Batman and not Black Bruce Wayne
Not Black Bruce Wayne.
See,
Okay.
now we're talking about totally different stories. I already don't like Batwing. Like, he's kind of a cornball dude, but I'm more down and more apt to be responsive to somebody taking over the mantle than you just trying to sell me a black Batman.
Yeah.
Right? Because contextually, like, and considering my culture, in what story does a black Bruce Wayne really exist? You know, in the era that Gotham City was Gotham City that created Batman, there's so much to pick apart in terms of what it meant to be a black person, now a black rich person, now a black rich vigilante.
Hundreds of years of family wealth.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's no
Shadowhawk.
old money in black Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You can't have that. Like, and it's completely stripping away. It's stripping away the identity of, like, kind of marginalized people to just insert a race or insert a gender for just kind of, look, now he's black. Black, because I'm a grown man and I do have a consistently deep voice. Sorry.
So I got what I'm gonna do. I want to follow up with something that Mackenzie just said, and I'm gonna just kind of run through a couple names and see how y'all feel about them, like in the comics. So Mackenzie, you said like you don't feel comfortable cosplaying like Storm.
Yeah.
But-
I feel like that's something that's just not mine to like that's for those who can actually see themselves as her.
But you feel comfortable. I know you've done like Peter Parker, Red Hood, things like that. You
Yeah,
feel,
most of my favorite characters are guys, so I have to
and
cosplay guys.
and Constantine.
Yes.
So that's okay.
Yeah, if they, like he said, flesh it out. Because from the sounds of it, gender and race bending is just taking the character and then putting them as a different color. But if you, like you said, taking the mantle, that's technically still gender race bending to those standards, but it is actually a different character with the same title. So I think it's the title that's the whole gender race bending versus the character itself.
There's a
You know?
larger issue at hand with not being able to. Obviously, no one's doing blackface. Like that's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a way to
Well,
pass
that-
down the Constantine title, I'd be very down with a female Constantine.
I think
That
she
would
could
be-
totally cosplay Storm and just wear a suit
White
with a
wig.
lightning bolt on it. Like
And a white
that's,
wig.
that's completely fine. Yeah.
Contacts.
Yeah, as long as they don't, change anything. But it still just feels wrong to a lot of people in the community, the cosplay community.
So
It-
as a whole, not just you, if you cosplay as Storm, people will take issue with that. Like without the
Yeah.
blackface.
Yeah, without blackface, there are people that will get quite nasty about it, and I totally get it too. Like my friend, she's hella white, and her boyfriend is not. But she wants to cosplay Princess Tiana, and everybody's like, no, don't do it, don't do it. She wants to, but she knows even if she doesn't do blackface, it's still shunned and frowned upon. So it's definitely something that, as a whole in the community and people in general, like if a character, like 'cause Tiana, she can't be anything but black in my opinion. When you watch the movie, like I know this is Disney, but this goes with comic characters too. Her background is very essential with, like she grew up in New Orleans and it was the time and her struggles with her parents and stuff, and just that develops her character. You can't really take that away if
Okay.
you're white. So
So-
it depends, honestly.
All right, so keeping it Disney, we're gonna just do a flash round. I'm gonna say somebody. We're gonna go down, quick blurb, and then I'll pick something that we can dig deep dive. But we're gonna keep it Disney. Jake, how do you feel about a black Ariel, Little Mermaid?
Yeah, that's awesome. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't.
She's a
I don't,
mermaid.
I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Why would that?
I don't know. I was just asking.
She's a mermaid. She doesn't really have a race. She's mermaid.
I
So
feel like if someone lived under the sea, they'd probably be pretty pale.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I would think they would look like Jason Momoa.
They could look like Jason Momoa. He's not from
No.
under the sea, though.
oh,
I'm just saying, you're a Pacific Islander. So how do you feel about Little Mermaid? Haji?
No. No. Fervently no. Like, and when I answer these questions, I feel like I align myself with some really terrible people because I have these opinions, and then
Yes,
like
you
I
do.
read about other people who have these opinions, and I'm like, but why you got your opinion? Racist. But why does it have to be a black Ariel? Don't BET me, because what happens is, like, so I take my daughter to go see The Little Mermaid, right? We go see The Little Mermaid. She sees Black Ariel swimming, singing about eating forks or whatever she does with the whatchamadoo dad.
Straws.
You've never seen the movie, have you?
And then now my daughter's completely enamored with this person, and she wants to like see the original. She wants to go get the toys. That Black Ariel disappears. Now give me a Black Ariana, who is also a Little Mermaid, but don't BET me. It's passive. It's pacifying.
Okay.
Why does it disappear?
I'm glad you said that. This domino, right?
I feel like that should be part for held off. I know where you're going with that.
But it fits right into this conversation. And we had this conversation when Domino came out in the new Deadpool movie, and she was cast as a Black woman. Fantastic actor, but I knew
Actress.
that character was not going to be fully represented. So don't put representation on me when this is what happens. Because this is the exact Domino character. It's in the collection of all characters from the movie, but they didn't make her Black in the toy. Why could I not get that? So this is what happens.
And
when,
I think Jake can speak more than that, but I think that's more of a licensing thing than like that is from the comic book of Deadpool, not the movie Deadpool. And I don't know if Jake, did they do a Deadpool movie pop line from Deadpool 2?
Think so. I mean, there was a couple of them where he's like from specific scenes in the movie. So I think they did do a couple of them, but it was mostly just Deadpool. Oh, yeah, never mind.
That's from the Deadpool movie. That is.
He doesn't look like that.
No.
But I mean, those
They
are.
mixed it. They
absolutely
definitely
that.
mixed it.
Oh, okay.
But what happens is, so we can have the conversation about licensing and all of that. But my 4-year-old daughter doesn't understand licensing. She understands
she needs to
representation.
step it up.
I know.
What did they
First of
teach
all,
you
like,
on
yo,
California?
they're not doing anything for her at school. She doesn't understand business licensing yet.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying, right?
And she need to learn how to do taxes.
Mine, because I don't know how to do my taxes. But that's what I'm saying. So when you say representation, how far does representation go? Because we saw it in the movie, I can't attach myself to that, and nobody else. There's no follow through, and that becomes a problem for me.
Are there more examples? I'm not
None that I bought. This is just the only.
Okay.
So-
I feel like the majority of these that I can think of, the stuff continues on and is on T-shirts and is on.
I did see one of her from the movie. Not to argue, but I did say, I think that's just a mixture of them.
So this is a very safe space. Well, I'm having this conversation with friends and people I can be open with. So
Yeah.
there's
We
nothing
just
off
met
limit or
really
off
cool.
topics.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see it being a consistent, and I still fail to understand why we can't just do. I mean, I do understand why we can't just do new. Like, you can't just pop out a comic book character and then sell it like it's a business. I do understand that. But if we're talking about opinion, and it's easy for you guys to say it's representation because it's not your representation.
Yeah.
So with you
not?
guys just being very progressive and just good humans, right? Like, you're on board with that. I'm also on board with the idea of having this type of representation, but that's not what it is.
So, because somebody that really influenced me to have this conversation, and I think I shared it with some of y'all. There's a guy on YouTube. His YouTube is Young Ripper, I think 59. His name is Eric Julie, and that's the one who coined the term tokenization. And I forgot where I was going with this, but
Just wanted to shout out to that guy.
well, no, but now, what were you
Holla,
saying?
Young Ripper.
I don't. In regards to that, as someone who sells all of that stuff to people, it is awesome the amount of little like white kids that I see buying action figures of black people. When I feel like, I don't know if you guys saw this video a number of years ago, and where these parents bought 2 Barbies for their daughters for Christmas, and they were like trolling them with little black Barbies, and the 2 girls start crying, but it was mostly perpetuated by the parents laughing as soon as they opened it. And seeing that, I don't think that exists like it did 10 years ago. It certainly does still in a lot of places, but I see little kids coming in buying Jason Momoa action figures, which they don't see like that's it's not like pointed out to them that should be a thing, and so they don't care.
Yeah.
Where I feel like you have to start somewhere, and if it starts you know, 2 years ago they didn't make the right choice in making a toy about it, but hopefully 2 years from now, every single one is carried on and moved on, and it'll have Ariel classic T-shirts and new ones and whatever.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Okay.
So where I was going with that. So I guess everybody, but I guess being that Grayson's anti. So far as in the comics, would you rather see new characters of different backgrounds and ethnics and everything, or versus like, because we kind of skipped the whole flash round I was gonna do, but like, would you rather have a completely new character or someone like Riri Williams, X-23, Miles Morales, you know, Far Sector? Well, Far Sector is kind of both, I guess. Far Sector would be
Green Lantern's just a giant space police corps. It can be anybody.
Yeah. Or Aqualad, because Aqualad's been both in the comics, and so personally, do you think is there more value to you as a fan as someone like Aqualad just for some reason becoming Black Manta's son versus whoever, I don't know who the other Aqualad, or Riri Williams? Because, I mean, from what y'all are saying, most of y'all are saying, as long as there's a story behind it and them taking the mantle, nobody really has a problem with that. So do you want to have, or do you feel like Black people should have their own identity, or should they just kind of take up the identity of what's already been established in these different times? Like, because a lot of these people are historic characters, and that's why I know people kind of feel away because, you know, Iron Man's been around since how long, Jake?
60.
The 60s.
Something like that.
You know, so yeah, how do y'all feel about that?
Again, from a sales standpoint, new characters don't sell well, and legacy characters are a much more presentable, sellable, like, idea to the masses.
So you're saying like a Riri would if you just came out with a Riri, no ties to Iron Man, she wouldn't do as well as
there's like 10,000 of those, and that they come out, they put a comic out, it exists for 6 months, and then they just sweep it under, and you'll see him on occasion as the character will pop up every once in a while because they're like, 3D Man, yeah, let's use him again for something, and they're like, yeah, he pops up for 3 pages and then he's gone, and that doesn't stick. Rarely does it stick. It does on occasion, and there are characters like Spawn that like
from
become,
the 90s.
you know, but that became like a huge deal, and that's really cool when that happens. But it just doesn't happen often.
What about you, Mackenzie?
Well, I actually love Riri Williams. I'm very happy you brought her up. I was waiting for her to get brought up, but it's the title that now, after this conversation, hearing you on both my sides, I'm just kind of feeling stuck in the middle, literally. Because it is a title, it's an attention grabber. If it's Ironheart, Iron Man, it's an Iron person, different, but she is her own person. She is an Iron Man. And I think that she made her own character out of Iron Man, being under Tony Stark, and creating her own, like, she fleshed herself out, in my opinion, in that comic.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the appropriate race bending of a title versus a character. Because I think we see characters as the titles. Like, Iron Man is Iron Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. There's so much room to move between that, but it's just a title. Thor. Like you said, if you have the hammer, you're Thor. And so it's not changing Thor himself, it's the title. So now, after this whole conversation, I'm going with the title rather than slapping a person into a completely different color, So you're fine with legacy, people kind of taking up the mantle of legacy characters versus as long as they're their own person.
New characters.
Yeah, I like the idea of like Riri being Riri, not anything like Tony Stark. She is her own person, but she's the new Iron Heart rather than Iron Man, because that's what she goes by. I like that.
What about you, Mr. P? Pajamas?
I feel like everybody's waiting for me to say something negative. No.
No.
But no, like straight up. No, but
hate
like
everything.
So I'm kind of on panel with everybody else. Like, I mean, I don't read Ironheart, but so
Of course you don't.
When
You don't like women
I'm not
or
progressive.
black
One you
people.
don't read.
I know what he buys. He barely buys any black people stuff. It's messed up.
I bought Bitterroot,
Did you?
and I did. Oh God, it's so dope. But that's not what we were talking about. But
I have to sell that stuff to you guys, so I'm like, I put that in your box so you know.
You
so
did. You
Jake
did.
is really.
I think you put me on Bitterroot, but didn't I put you on Bitterroot?
You put me on a Bitterroot.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a domino
Classic
effect.
Louis Tee credit grab.
And if y'all haven't, y'all check out Bitterroot. It's a great comic. But I'm gonna
But
bring
no,
that
so
up a little bit.
as far as Riri goes and like characters taking up a mantle, I feel like that's a fantastic diving board, right? Because at some point she doesn't have to be Ironheart. At some point she can become somebody else, and that's a good way for like as a business, sales, and just like story development. Like yes, I did take up the mantle of Iron Man. I'm Ironheart, and then like I navigate through whatever my story arc is, and then like I find this, and now I'm this person, and that to me is representation. Like that's something that I can like put my hands in the dirt in and continue to follow, and hopefully something that'll go on to be successful. But like I said, just slapping blackface on Tony Stark, it doesn't do it for me.
See, I mean,
I don't think that happens very often.
But I need that to happen for the for the purpose of my argument.
yeah. So when you just threw me off, man. So, but yeah, you brought up Bitterroot, and are you familiar with Bitterroot at all?
Not that much.
Okay.
I've definitely talked about it with people who do know.
Yeah.
So
I just actually got my 1 through 5, so now I wanted to wait before I read it, but I'm familiar with it. So Haji, Jake, and Mackenzie, chime in where you can. So what if they flipped the races in, because we've focused a lot about race, and typically we're talking white to black. We focus a little bit on gender, which usually male to female is what we're talking about, because you know the comics. When did the comics get created? In the 30s, 40s. White males were typically
Running this ish.
everything, which they still do.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. It's your fault.
I
So,
understand.
but
Dang, this is all your fault.
but now, I mean, there
Jake is the
are,
problem.
and I'm the one to disagree with y'all. I mean, I understand you from a business point, and I never argue money, numbers. But Bitterroot is a new comic, and then also the Black as Fuck stuff, that's new stuff, and I enjoy that. So I do. I mean, typically it's indie. I would like to see it in the mainstream, and I don't think every new character has to have their own comic, but you can introduce Haji Pajamas in a comic, and he be part of the Defenders or Avengers, and build his story, and then eventually spawn out. Because like the Joker who laughs. I mean, it's still the Joker, it's still Batman, so that's not fair. But he didn't start out in his own comic.
Yeah.
He started out as a character, and now he has his own comics.
Well, but they do that. I order it, I put it on the shelf, and no one's buying the new Marvel or DC characters. It can be a white guy too. Like they rarely sell it. The stuff that continues to sell. Like, they try it, they put out a bunch of stuff, nothing sticks to the wall, and they're like, okay, Wolverine again, do that again, and then that's where it always ends up there. They try.
So go ahead.
I was about to say, so does that speak to a bigger problem then, right? So we're not talking about race and gender bending right now. We're talking about, years and years and eons of comic book readers or people who are just intaking media altogether. You do put this stuff out and nobody's purchasing. Oh, turn the mic to me. Got it. So then how do we put those out so that people are interested to be able to engage them? Right? Because if they are making it, and I know they're making it because me and Louis are buying it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the vehicle behind it that says, okay, here it is? And I know that's a grand question with probably not one answer. But I think now we're moving away from.
And to add on that, because I went to I brought Bitterroot 1 on your recommendation, and then it didn't grab me. But then I saw a video breaking down the whole story of it, which I sent to Grayson, and then I went back to get the rest of them, and they were sold out. So and Black sold out too.
Yep.
Like, what's the name of that company that does the blacks?
Is that I don't know if that was Black Mask or
Black
It is,
Mask.
it's Black
Yeah,
Mask.
Black Mask. So those stuff sell out. What is it? Are you ordering smaller quantities, or like what's the difference between in comics? What's the difference between independent stuff like Image and Black Mask versus and even there's another new company or a smaller company that does a lot of stuff that's been recently. I hear y'all talk about a lot of their titles versus the big guys like versus DC and Marvel.
in terms of market share, it's such a tiny piece of the pie that it's doesn't even matter. I mean, it's like everything else is a highway and this is an alley. Like it compared numbers wise, it doesn't matter. It has to spawn further. It has to grow like exponentially through other media for it to like actually hit movies. But there's a Bitterroot movie being made, and if there wasn't, it wouldn't be anywhere close to as crazy sold out as it is. Even though it's awesome, like it's really
is
really
so
cool.
awesome.
It's a really
Yeah.
buy Bitterroot at Memory Lane.
Yeah. Well, that's sold out. but-
Lots of copies. But yeah.
And will this be the last kind of closing out? So if they switch Bitterroot and the main characters, for those who haven't gathered, the main characters in Bitterroot are black people. If they switch them to white,
But hold on,
in the
I think,
comics.
and I don't even know if we have time to really expound on this. You have to tell the story of Bitterroot, right? Because it's not just these are black characters. The whole the Kaijinu?
Their culture is
the entire culture and the, I guess the antagonists that they're up against are white men with hate. Like the
Yeah,
hate
hate-
is the
yeah.
the story. The hate is the story. So it's not as easy as just saying replace them with, different
if you swap
ethnicities, because then you have to change the entire story. Which
yeah.
they're as inherently black as Bruce Wayne is inherently white. You can't. I mean,
Exactly.
that just doesn't work.
Exactly.
As T'Challa is,
Yeah.
like it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
you don't
T'Challa.
Nobody
could be
wants to
from,
see a Swedish Panther.
like T'Challa could be from Egypt. He could
Still
be
black,
Egyptian. He could be the Egyptian Panther. I'll be okay with that.
Sure.
Yeah, people from
At the
Egypt.
same time.
Are you trying to say people from Egypt don't need representation?
No, we're trying to say the pyramids weren't made of vibranium.
You right though.
So all right. So outside of, so this is a Jake and Mackenzie question, and outside of the predetermined for you, I guess you Jake, Batman. Is there someone in the comics that you feel that you did have a problem when they did like swap their race or gender? Like, do you feel? Because I know a proper word is shoehorn. So I guess is this someone that you feel was kind of shoehorned
Louis
in?
and I talked about this the other day, and it's really interesting that like it kind of came up naturally through. I don't even know if we were talking about all this or whatever, but
Actually, it was based on a conversation that me and the host Devon had. I think I think I was talking about Hank McCoy,
oh yeah, okay.
and
So
I was telling you about the story that we had.
when I was probably like 17, and I was reading the Ultimate X-Men comic, and one of the characters who was like the guy I identified with the most, Colossus, comes out as gay, and I was so like personally hurt that happened at 17 years old. In a way that's, I don't know, it's so funny to me now that exists, but I really, really, really did not care for it at all. And I kept reading it. It became an interesting plot point and a good story. And it was like an alternate version. It'd be like if it's a Miles Morales to Peter Parker, essentially. But I was so hurt in that moment. And it's funny looking back to, I don't know, I guess that's been 16 years or something, where that just would not matter whatsoever to me now. But I think you and I were talking about being comfortable being able to see yourself in someone else's place, where that was probably a point in my life where if they did gender swap him instead, I would have been equally as affected by that, because it didn't seem like it was just this big white guy. and so I don't know why I identified with him so much through that. But
Are you Russian?
I'm not Russian.
Do you have a sister named Magic that's in a movie coming out in April?
I have a brother, and I call him Magic sometimes.
I mean, Ben. Shout out to Ben. He is kind of magic. He gets all those top picks done in 1 minute.
That's true. That's true.
That's kind of magic.
He's sweating at the end of that thing. I don't. Yeah, it's just funny to me now that how little that matters to me at this point. But I think I see other people's struggles or lives in a different way. So that's what I like about the representation thing, is I think that the more that they do, the more people can read about someone else's story. The stories when they switch Captain America to Sam Wilson, who's the Falcon, and they really go heavy into his backstory, which is like growing up in Harlem, where his dad was, walked home with this money from work every day and had to protect it, and ended up getting shot over this bag of money. It seems like such his story.
Did they give that same story to Samuel Jackson in the movie? I feel like Samuel Jackson told that story to Captain America.
Kind of true, yeah. So maybe they robbed from there.
See how they do us? See how they do us?
Well, in the comic books, which are even better.
I mean, obviously.
I think they do a really good job of having you now. So now Captain America fans are reading this new Captain America's story, and they're seeing themselves in a different spot, and I think that's a really positive idea.
So how about you, Mackenzie? Is there a time in the comics that you did not like? Some kind of bending?
Not that I can really recall, because most of the time a character's bent, if I read it, usually it's fleshed out, like Miles Morales. I was at first really excited about Cindy Moon. You guys read Silk at all? Because she's probably my favorite spider person. But I can't.
You're a girl. It got to be Gwen Stacy. It got to be Spider-Gwen.
No.
And you're a cosplayer.
I am a cosplayer, but everybody's Spider-Gwen right now.
So, yeah, that got to be your favorite.
So I'm not giving into that popularity thing. That's Harley Quinn, now Mandalorian, all that stuff. But anyway. But I've never been upset about a certain gender racing, or my words.
NASCAR.
Yes, the bending of any race and gender. Like so Peggy, Peggy Carter in Captain America, if they changed her, I would be butthurt, because I see myself as her physically, emotionally, mentally, movies-wise, but in the comics she's a little different. But I'm saying that character in general, because I identify so hard with her, like you identified with your character, it has a different effect on you, because that's you. That's how you see yourself. But everybody needs that too. So you kind of got to share the love a little bit with some characters,
When they do that, though, I think it results in a positive
no, it's not negative
exercise to you, because it forces you to be like, wow, okay, well maybe I can't understand something that's someone else's thing, like, because you probably would still be engaged with it.
You would still love it, because that's still your character. And the thing about a character, if you love them for who they are, not what they look like. So Peggy, if she looked completely different, I would still be in absolute awe. I just wouldn't see myself in her. But you gotta share that love if it's obviously done right with the whole background.
So Haji, who's someone? And I mean, I guess in the comics, it seems like you don't have a big issue, which you're gonna have some fun with the second one. But so Haji, who's someone in the comics that has been flipped or swapped that you do, like your favorite flip, and you can't say Miles Morales, somebody else.
But that is though.
But
right?
I mean,
So all right, so let's say.
But I mean, he's like an easy one.
Let's say a flip, right? So, I mean,
It's
like, I'm a
Aqualad.
huge Batman fan.
Wally West is your favorite one.
Get out of here, all the way out of here. But so I grew up being a huge fan of Robin. The idea that like Batman in and of itself was like this just infallible hero still needed the assistance of somebody else, and found Dick Grayson, right? And Dick Grayson being the boy wonder, like that was an adage that I attached to everything I couldn't do as a kid. Like, I'm the boy wonder, I can do this, blah, 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 blah. So much so that that's why Grayson is my name now. But I'm not the standard, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the standard, so Grayson was always white. So that's who I had to look to. And then they brought in Duke. I don't really care much for Bat Signal. Like, I feel like the suit sucks. But when he became a Robin, I was a big fan of that because I was able to attach myself to the story. Like, I mean, I didn't grow up in foster care, but I was working in foster care. You know what I mean? Like, I saw myself, I saw when he had to look at his parents who were just kind of joker gas and, like, falling apart. And he was falling apart, and he couldn't find family, found him, but now he can't have him. And then, like, Batman, like, takes him in, trains him. Like, I rooted for that hard. I really rooted for a better suit, and he just didn't get one. But, like, I was a big fan of that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it works.
Okay.
I'd argue that the counterpoint to that would be little white kids that, like, they're almost never forced to attach themselves to a different character like that. And the more that, like, when I took my niece and nephew to see Spider-Verse, and we walk out, and this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid looks at me and he goes, "I'm Miles Morales, you're Peter Parker, and she's Gwen Stacy." He couldn't remember her name. He was like, "She's her." You know, but like, he's 8, you know, and he was so thrilled. We went to Target because they sometimes have better stuff than I do, and bought some. I was like, "What do you want? Let's buy you some toys from this movie." I had a great time watching it. I want to buy some myself. I liked it a lot.
But it's so much easier to do though when everything else around you is you. So, like, all I have is Duke. All I have is Miles Morales. The rest of the world is not my hero. Mm-hmm. So if I want to play pretend with this character and this character being a part of the majority, I can, because I can instantly remove myself and look into a sea of a whole bunch of other people who are represented well. I can't do that. Like, I mean, not to say that I can't, because, you know, as times progress, I can now, but just by and large and in general, I can't just be like, I'm Robin, I like Robin, but I'm not Robin. My hair doesn't do this.
But what I'm saying is, it forced this kid who in the past would never have almost ever had this opportunity. He'd have been like, what? He wanted to be Jon Stewart or the Falcon would be his 2 options to, like. But we went to
and
Target.
Luke Cage.
I was trying to get him to buy an action figure. He bought the Miles Morales mask, and he wore that thing for like 16 weeks straight. Like, it probably smells like garbage. Like, he loves like running around playing Miles Morales, and I think it means a lot that for his future that it doesn't that didn't have any effect on him, and that he's that much more comfortable trying, like.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, because you are absolutely correct. Like, I work with kids, and I watch, and this is a different conversation, but, like, I watch how kids use the N-word, right, amongst each other interracially. There's no excuse for the word. It's not the word to use, but they're so far removed from what it actually means. So it's that is a sign of progression. But again, still, he can take off that mask and see more him. I am constantly looking for somebody who is representative of me somewhere, so I can gravitate to that person and hold on to that person. And I have to hold on to that person with everything I got, because I don't know when I'm going to get another one. I don't know when I'm going to get another Miles Morales. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
G5, Black Batman.
No!
You can into a comic shop
Haji,
soon.
Since you're talking, where can everybody find you at and get you and stuff, and give your last words to the peoples?
I'm normally at home watching American Housewife. Or my Instagram stuff. Hpfangs. Everything is on Hpfangs. Hpfangs.com. Instagram at Hpfangs. No Z. I spell it like a real Black American with an S.
Republican. And Mackenzie.
And my Instagram is timelady_cosplay. I post so many wacky things from Comic-Cons to cosplay, so that's all.
And Jake, where can people find you at?
Yeah, Memory Lane Comics. If you just Google it, you're fine.
You might want to throw Wilmington in there just to be safe. Memory Lane's Comics, Wilmington.
Yeah, that'll work. MLC shop.
Yeah,
something
all
like that.
Good stuff. Great shop. So I want to thank y'all, and stay tuned. We do have
shouts out to Palate.
Shouts out. We are at Palate. Thanks for Palate for hosting us. Thank everybody. We got some more people that kind of came in, and so stay tuned. We're gonna do one similar, but we're gonna be talking about movies and TVs. Oh, and I am your host, Inquisitive Mind of Louis Tee. So make sure, I don't know what medium you're watching and listening to this, but if hit IMoLTPodcast on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. IMoLTPodcast on Instagram, and Inquisitive Mind of Louis Tee on Facebook. And then, so what we're going to do now, I mean, y'all bye everybody on camera, but I'm going to let we're gonna take a little break, but I'm gonna let our host, if anybody has any questions for us, you know, and stuff, and like take it over. And yeah, thanks everybody. So.
Yeah.